So welcome in the video for class 8 science, and the chapter will be 9, that is reproduction in animals. So as you already studied reproduction in plant in previous class 7, so in this chapter we are discussing only reproduction in animal. So basically first we have to elaborate that word, what is the reproduction. So reproduction stands for with two words. First word is re, that means again, and production means to form or to make. When organism form or make their own type, that means when animal अपने जैसे animal को बनाता है या produce करता है, तो that process is called as a reproduction. So why, now one more question arrived, that why it is required to organism to reproduce? Because first basic reason is organism have to continue their species. That means all the organism has to make their own copy so that their species can continue in the life form, and the second for future survival of the same species. Suppose organism don't reproduce, so when the one organism that not reproducing comes to its senescence phase, when he or she will or it will die, so the species of that particular organism will be finished or destroyed. But by reproduction, the particular organism make the continuity of the species and for future survival of the same species. By making their own type, they make the future of their future and the survival of their own species. Now in further section we will discuss about the various modes of reproduction in animals and how does it takes place. So now in the reproduction in animal, what are the mode of reproduction? How does the organism, or in this case animal, reproduce? So there are two modes of reproduction, as you already studied about reproduction in plant in previous class 7. In also animal there are two types of reproduction. So first type is sexual reproduction and the second type is asexual reproduction. So individually in this chapter we only study about sexual reproduction and sexual reproduction in human. That is our main topic in this chapter. Sexual reproduction in human we have to discuss, and as you all already studied asexual reproduction in previous class 7, but I am going to tell some few features of asexual reproduction in further section. Now the main difference between the sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction as listed here. In case of asexual reproduction, mainly one parent or only single organism involved in the process of reproduction, whereas in the sexual reproduction two parents or organism involved, that is one is male organism and the second one is a female organism, or the part that is reproducing or called as a male sexual organ and the female sexual organ. In second, no production of the gamete or germ cell. In the process of the asexual reproduction, there is no special type of cell or gamete or germ cell produced, but in case of the sexual reproduction, production of special germ cell or gamete takes place in every organism in which the sexual reproduction occurs. Thirdly, no fusion of the gamete. So in case of asexual reproduction, there is no fusion or gamete, that means fertilization occur. No fertilization occur in case of asexual reproduction, but in case of the sexual reproduction, fusion of gamete, that is called as a fertilization, definitely occur. And the fourth and last main difference, the new organism looks as like its parent. In case of asexual reproduction, the new organism that is produced is exactly looks like the same organism which previously present, but in this case of sexual reproduction, new offspring looks somewhat different from their parent. So in case of sexual reproduction, the new organism that is born is somewhat looks different from the previous organism, some kind of differences, that is called as a variability is present in the new offspring in case of the sexual reproduction. So here we studied the basic differences between the asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Now in further section we will be studying about the sexual reproduction in human being. How does it takes place, what kind of various organs is present in a human being for the sexual reproduction, what are the two different organisms, that means male and female, and their sexual reproductory organs. Now in the sexual reproduction in human, as already told, in sexual reproduction there are two components, one is the male and second one is the female. So in male there is male reproductive organs. So various group of organs present in the male reproductive system. So one by one we will going to discuss that particular organs and which type of germ cell, or also called as a gamete cell, produced by the human being. So in the diagram given in your chapter, here is the roughly depicted diagram. So it constitutes the main part of the reproductive system in the human or male. First primary reproductive organ is called as a testis. So a pair of testes is present. The major part of the male reproductive organ are pair of a testes. So testes is a small ball like structure. It's present outside the skin pocket, outside the body of the male, and in a pocket like or sac like structure, and these primarily sexual organ called as a testes. Apart from these, two pair of a sperm duct or a gamete duct also present, which carries the gamete from testes to the genital pathway of the human. And the last major organ of the sexual reproduction or male reproductive organ is a penis. So it is an external reproductive organ that is present outside the body. It is composed of a long cylindrical shaft, and in that shaft, inside the shaft, there is a tube like structure called as a urethra. This urethra also carries the urine from the gallbladder and also the sperm from the sperm duct. So in case of the human or male, the genital pathway and the urinary pathway is the common pathway in case of the male. So the sperm duct provide the sperm which also travel through the genitals, and the urine that is come from the urinary bladder also excreted out from this penis or the urethral part. So here we discuss the major reproductive organ in the male. Now what type of the cell that is produced by the human male that is required for the sexual reproduction. So male gamete or germ cell, also called as a sperm, and it is very small inside, you can't see with the naked eye. You have to if you want to see, you have to use the microscope, and it is also a single cell. So in case of the male gamete, that is germ cell, also called as a sperm, it is a single cell. That means what are the various organelles that are present in the normal cell also present in case of a sperm. Now sperm has some parts. There are three parts from the sperm. First one is called as a head, the middle piece, and the third part called as a tail. So a simple rough diagram is given in your book also. Here the initial part, that is look like a bulgy and elevated part called as a head. Now the head continues as a cylindrical tube like structure which is looks darker, that is called as a middle piece, and the middle piece continue as a tail like structure, it is called as a tail. So now human or male reproductive germ cell, also called as a sperm, has a three part: head, middle piece, and the tail. And the diagram, this is the head, here is the middle piece, and this is called as a tail. Now in further section we will be discuss in the female reproductive organs in human. The sperm or the male reproductive germ cell is produced inside the testes, and when the cell matures, the cell move out of the testes through the sperm duct, it come to the genital pathway, it didn't come out from the genital pathway, also called as a penis. So the sperm come out of the genital, and take the further process that is called as a fertilization. Now in further part, female reproductive organ. So in human female also there are group of organs which are involved in the process of the reproduction. So here firstly, pair of ovaries. So in case of the human being, there are a pair of ovaries in each side, left or right side, a single ovary present, and the ovary is the major reproductive organ in the female which produces female gamete, also called as a ova or egg. Secondly, the oviduct or fallopian tube which connect ovary from the third important organ that is called as a uterus. So third important female reproductive organ, it is called as the uterus, which is ultimately responsible for the production of the new born, or also called as a fetus, or the new young baby inside the womb of the mother. So what is the womb? Womb is called as a uterus. So here is the major reproductive organs or pair of ovaries in female: oviduct, fallopian tube. Here this is ovaries, this is oviduct, where the egg is released by the ovary and it is carried inside the fallopian tube. Inside the fallopian tube there will be a further process called as a fertilization. We will be studying in the further section takes place. So if you are asked that is the fertilization process, where does the fertilization process occur in the human being, you call or answer as a inside the oviduct. And the third important organ that is called as a uterus. Uterus is also called in layman's term is as a womb, where inside the baby developed. And in case of the female gamete called as a ova or egg, that is developed or produced inside the ovaries. It is also a very small in size, and like the sperm, it is also a single cell. So the normal human egg is laid down by ovary. So it looks like a single cell. Like the cell, it has a cell membrane and also has a nucleus. So in case of the fertilization, one egg cell or the ova and the sperm from the male reproductive system, these two cells fuses and perform the process called as the fertilization, which we will be studying in the further section. Now the process of sexual reproduction in human beings mainly involve three major steps. First step is called as a fusion of gametes, that is called as a fertilization, or in general in animal also called as a fusion of gamete, called as a fertilization. And the second major step is the development of the embryo. There is a structure formed during the process of the fertilization called as a embryo. Their development takes place in the second step, and when the complete development of the embryo takes place, it converted into the fetus, or also called as a newborn baby. Now the process called as a parturition, or simply कहते हैं delivery of the newborn outside the body of the female. So here after this third step, the actual reproduction process completed. So we will be discussing these three steps one by one, starting from the fertilization, that is called as the fusion of the gamete. These three steps will be discussed in the second part of this video. We will be start from the fusion of the gamete, fertilization, and the second part we will be also discussing development of the embryo, and after the development of the embryo we will discuss the parturition and delivery of the newborn also in the second part of this video. So thank you so much for your time and study well.